Hello there, you're watching Reality Check on NDTV. I'm Maha Siddiqui. Techies on tractors, apartments in some of the poshest localities flooded with dirty water. Youngsters pushing their two-wheelers in waist-high water. This is India's IT hub, Bengaluru. People, including those from the top management of IT and startup firms, have had to be evacuated from their upscale residences in southeast Bengaluru. The area near Belandur Lake and Outer Ring Road houses some of the biggest tech companies: Accenture, Shell India, SAP, Cisco, Deloitte, Intel, AT&T, you name it. But while the Bengaluru IT hub is finding solutions for small and big businesses, it is itself wading through a man-made disaster. Does this mean Brand Bengaluru has taken a beating? That's the question we are posing this evening on Reality Check. Let's head straight into our discussion this evening. Joining me on the show, Revati Ashok, CEO and Managing Trustee, BPAC, that's Bangalore Political Action Committee, Vinay Dhanani, Chief Operating Officer of Zepto. We'll also be joined shortly by Ankush Sabarwal, Founder, CEO of Corova, Naresh Narasimhan, Architect and Urban Designer, Arpan Srivastav, Vice President and Head of Product, Zoom Car, K. Ganesh, serial entrepreneur, promoter of Big Basket, Home Lane, Bluestone, joining us here on the show. Revati Ashok, coming first to you. Is Bengaluru today a classic example of chaotic urbanization, something that requires political will to bring into order? And is that lacking?
Of course, I think you absolutely said it right. Political will is totally lacking. We don't realize that with rapid urbanization, we are going to have more and more people migrating to cities for economic opportunities. And therefore, the old ways of managing urbanization is not going to work. We really do not have urban planners. We don't have a vision for the city. When we saw Chennai in floods a few years ago, we wrote to the government saying that there should be a flood resilience plan, because in Bangalore, we are going to see the next one. We got a small warning 3 years ago, but we never learned from it. And we continue to operate as if nothing is going wrong. It's not about something which is happened once in 50 years. There is a lake system, and the system has primary lakes, secondary lakes, and a valley which is connected with Rajakaluways. If all the Rajakaluways are blocked, how do you, in a topography like Bangalore with so much slope, you need to allow water to drain off. So this is not only one about urban apathy, political apathy, it's also lack of technical competence and huge corruption. So this is a heavy cocktail of things that is happening together. Unless
so I'll interrupt you there. Let me bring in Naresh Narasimhan and pose some of those questions that you've raised here with him. Naresh Narasimhan, would you at least agree that this is a man-made disaster? For instance, environmental activists have accused the BBMP of violating the buffer zone regulations by constructing a Samudaya Bhavan near Ganga Shetty Lake. How do you excuse this blatant violation by a body that should in fact be carrying out court orders?
Well, I don't know. I really think that Indian media is overreacting to what has happened. What has happened is an extreme climate event which is unforeseen in the history of the city. And I think that, thinking that this is going to be the end of Bangalore is a far-fetched conjecture. Yes, I agree there are problems. We have not foreseen this kind of climate change events that are happening right now. But it's not that the whole of the city is affected. The area which is affected badly is unfortunately the IT corridor, which is also the most voluble in terms of social media presence. And calling this end of Bangalore, I think, is premature. However, I'm not trying to excuse the failures of government or the planning process in the process in what has happened. I think the government is seized of the matter, and we have taken some action in the past 6 months. We have a pilot project in a drain that's working very well, and we have now released a whole set of tenders to study the problem in great detail, and I'm sure that we will not have this problem again when the next monsoon comes around.
But sir, the question that many are asking, and Vinay Dhanani, I want to bring you in here, is it too little too late considering the images that have already gone out from Bengaluru now?
No.
We just heard Mr. Naresh Narasimhan saying that this is an area, this is an IT hub, social media presence is high, but that's what that's how perceptions are created. Has that perception today taken a hit, and how can Bengaluru carry on like this?
So I think the situation is not completely in control. There are areas which are heavily waterlogged at this point of time. We in Zepto, our foremost responsibility is to ensure the safety of our staff and the last mile delivery partners. Having said that, I think it's also at the same time responsibility to reach out to the community wherever we can serve with utmost safety precautions. There are situations, in the city where the basements are filled, the lifts are not working, the elderlies have not been able to come down to the ground floors for quite a few days. Deliveries are not happening on the high rises, and this is the situation where we are trying to, help the community, where we can reach out to whichever possible location at this point of time. So, yeah, but situation is not completely under control. It's a difficult time.
Absolutely, and it's been 4 days now. Water is slowly receding, but we know that stormwater drainage is not working properly because of rampant construction. Some of these are choked and blocked. It's a chaotic situation, and why it's being used as an example, really, Naresh Narasimhan, and I want to bring you back in here because you didn't agree with me earlier on, and we don't expect you to. Yes, you are bringing your viewpoint here, but this is an IT hub. This is an urban area. If this is the situation of a place where there are so many eminent citizens, where solutions are brought to the table for the world over, questions will be raised, sir, isn't it?
I understand. I understand the pain and anguish that my fellow citizens are going through. However, it's not as though it's the end of the city or anything. See, we have 66 kilometers of ring road around the city. The problem has happened in 600 meters. The scale of the problem is vastly exaggerated in media, and it has created unfortunately, all that area that has been affected is the high-profile area of the city where the IT investments are concentrated. However, the government is fully seized of the problem and have initiated a series of studies and a series of solutions that are being put together. There have been encroachments. Encroachments is not the main problem. The problem is really the unforeseen ability. See, Bangalore receives about 970 millimeters, 900 millimeters to 1,000 millimeters of rain a year. Last year, we received 1,200. And in this 1 month, in the last 1 month, we have received more than 350 mm of rain. No city in the world can cope with this kind of climate change. We have seen this problem happening in Chennai. We have seen this problem happening in Bombay. We have seen it in New York. We have seen it everywhere. But this is not an unfixable problem. And I'm fairly confident that with involvement from the technological brains of Bangalore, working with government, that this problem will not happen, is completely solvable.
Okay.
And I really feel that we should not...
I agree with your point, sir, that this year Bengaluru has seen unprecedented rains, but I don't agree with the fact that waterlogging issues haven't come about earlier as well, because Arpan Srivastav, coming to you... I'll come back to you, sir. Last year, areas around the Kempegowda International Airport also got flooded. There was uproar. People like Kiran Majumdar-Shaw had in fact tweeted saying Bengaluru Airport will now have to have tractors. It's turning into reality. reality today. We are seeing techies being evacuated in tractors. What do you say when you see such scenes unfold?
It's pretty sad, actually. I've been living in Bangalore for the last 20 odd years, and I think there's a very clear pattern, right? All the new areas which have been developed, and I wouldn't even say developed, right? Like, this is basically just land which has been sold to the builder mafia or to SEZs to build residential complexes. There has been absolutely zero town planning. And if you look at the eastern part of Bangalore, all the areas starting from Belandur, Sarjapur Road, Marthali, Mahadevpura, they are the worst affected because there's just zero town planning. And when you look at the slightly older areas developed by BDA or even the older cantonment areas, they're laid out on a grid. So I have always strongly believed that this is not a one-off phenomena. This will happen again because a lot of these areas are actually downstream from some of the major lakes of Bangalore. So you're basically not only affected by climate change, you're also cursed by topography, right? So you're basically 100 meters lower than the rest of the city. So whenever the water runoff happens, these are the areas which get inundated. And I think the government will just have to put together a very, very comprehensive plan for these areas, not only for drainage, but also for electricity, gas, public transport, because none of that planning has ever happened.
And that's why I say that some bits of it are man-made disaster. Ankush Tabarwal, is human intelligence failing against arresting such disasters?
Yeah, definitely. If you see, the problem is real. We are able to see that. In fact, I stay a few meters away from the outer ring road, which is in the news. And fortunately, nothing happened to my house, and we have 2 levels of parking. Nothing has happened there. But most of the videos which I'm getting are the same videos which are actually getting repeated. See, the problem is real. But as Mr. Narasimha was saying, it is in few roads, right, over Outer Ring Road and Sarjapur Road. And it's much talked about, and for a reason, right? As we know, 225 around I think 20 if I'm not, $22 billion revenue comes from that road itself, which is around 32% of the Bangalore revenue every year. And any problem there, even for a few minutes, it's a kind of problem. But the whole Bangalore is not getting impacted. But many people go there. Yes, I stay there. My wife's office is there. But yeah, so I think we have to look forward and try to solve that. It's not something which has happened only in Bangalore, right? It has happened in Buffalo City when I was there in the New York. It has happened in other part of the countries also in India. So to come forward and have all technological interventions in place and try to fix it. But the problem is, but not everyone is getting impacted so far, fortunately.
K. Ganesh, people are talking about how we are reaching a stage where we promise doorstep deliveries in 10 minutes, but we have no solutions to a recurring problem. Is that not an irony?
No, I think this is a big wake-up call. I am extremely surprised by some of the comments that this is happening in few hundred meters of Bangalore. It has affected each and every person. People travel from one side of the city, pass through the other place and come there. They are not able to travel. I have been traveling last 2 days in the areas which are not waterlogged, not in those areas which has got lakes, but the traffic is horrendous because the traffic is getting diverted. Therefore, to give excuses and explain saying that it's once in 50 years this kind of water has come and it has happened in other places, I completely disagree. And we are wasting a crisis here. We should wake up, smell the coffee, and take steps to correct it. I don't care whether it has not happened in Buffalo or it has happened in other cities in India. This is Bangalore. This is my Bangalore. I've been here last 25 years. In the recent survey, it has been rated as one of the top 6 best cities for expats to live in. It has attracted venture capital, the likes of Sequoia Capital and Goldman Sachs, more than any other city. 7.2 billion in 2020 came here. We are proud of Brand Bengaluru. This is the place which we talk with pride. And imagine the media attract us. I don't blame the media. It's good. Please do it. Hopefully we wake up. 1. Point number 2, forget this once in 50 years or twice in 50 years rain. Before that, have you seen the state of the potholes and the road and the traffic? Just forget the last 2 weeks. Even before that, it is pathetic and shameful road public infrastructure in Bangalore, even with the before last 2 weeks, and in best of the places across Bangalore, not only in this 600 meters or go anywhere in Bangalore, show me one road. I can tell you one thing. I have traveled in all the cities in India. I have traveled outside. Nowhere, not even in underdeveloped countries, I have seen road and potholes like it is in Bangalore. Shoddy work, poor quality work. Either people have given contract to the lowest price bidder, or there is corruption, or there is complete lack of capability to make one road withstand normal rain. No road actually survives here. It's less than a kilometer. So I'm speaking from my heart
that aspect has been raised by a lot of people now. They're talking about the issue of rampant corruption as well. Naresh Narasimhan, getting you back into the conversation. Let's now begin talking about the impact on Brand Bengaluru. You said that everybody is virtually reading an obituary for Bengaluru. That's not the case, sir. But I want to understand from you, how do you see the Brand Bengaluru taking a hit when you see pictures of a flooded, for instance, Wipro office, or you see residential areas of top honchos flooded itself? Does it not result in a setback for the image of Bengaluru?
100% I agree with you. But it's more a perception problem than a real problem. So these kind of events tend to happen when there is extreme climatic events. These kind of images are, fairly useful to show, right? When extreme climatic events happen. However, that we have now started understanding that we have to recalibrate the standards for how stormwater is handled in Bangalore. Stormwater is only one of the problems Bangalore faces. So the real issue in Bangalore is that we have two other issues which the government must address really carefully. One is that we don't have a proper self-government in Bangalore. The corporation hasn't had elections in more than 2 years. That needs to be done so that more local responsibility is there. The government has decentralized the management of Bangalore with 5 sub-commissioners. However, that whole governance system is yet to kick into place. I'm sure that in the next 1 year, at the pace at which reform is happening, things will change. Okay. I agree, everything looks terrible right now, but I have a lot of faith in my city. I love my city, and whatever it is, we're all appointed custodians, and people who really love Bangalore should contribute and make sure that the city is a place of, is a karma bhumi.
Right. It's not we hope things can improve, but in the short run, Arpan Srivastav, realistically, could this trigger the IT sector to move out of Bengaluru? Lots of people are already talking about an alternative in Kochi.
I think short term, yes, you might see a little bit of movement, but I don't think there's going to be a mass exodus, right? Like purely because of all the brain power and all the talent which is concentrated in Bengaluru. But definitely people might start exploring options like, having more distributed workspaces. I already see that happening in Bangalore, especially in Outer Ring Road, right? The offices have almost emptied out. People have kind of, just decided that, we will come into office when it's only absolutely when it is required. Otherwise, we can very effectively work from home. And very soon that can translate that, hey, if I can work from another part of Bangalore, then I might as well work from Hyderabad or Kochi. And I can come into Bangalore, once in 3 months for a meeting or once in a month for a meeting. And that can have a very disastrous consequence on, all these major tech parks which have been built, on rental incomes, on the entire economy of the city. So although I agree that this is a once in a while, a very unusual sort of, climate event which has happened, but we just have to build our cities resilient enough to basically be able to withstand these shocks. Absolutely. And we can't hide behind the fact that, this happened once in a while, it happens in all the cities in the world. But you always have examples of a city like Amsterdam, which is basically below the sea level and manages their flooding, extremely well. And we just have to get there.
Right. Ankush, will there be a huge setback for Bengaluru if, say, even some of the IT companies decide to move out, and there needs to be more political will to undo this damage?
I think, as I agree with Arpana there, so after COVID, we were slowly opening up the offices and we had requested our teams to come back. But after this incident, I don't think it's easy for us and for HR to bring our people back. So I would agree. I think people would now look for, say now we have say few people in Delhi, few people in Mumbai. So after these incidents, and we are definitely thinking, so if you have say even 4 people in Delhi, why don't we have a small co-working office in Delhi? I would definitely see a big setback here in Bangalore. But as I said, I think the problem would be solved, right? We have all the brains here, and soon I think we'll restart the discussion to have the team back in Bangalore, as Alpana said, right? So most of the tech brain is here. We cannot overlook that. But current problem is real, but I think soon we should be able to find the problem and restart the discussion of having the team back. Now we have paused getting the teams back to Bangalore.
Okay, Vinay Dhanani, do you think that solutions can now be reached since we know what the problems are and what impact it can have on Bengaluru?
Yeah, I'm an optimist. Every event is an opportunity to learn and improve. And you know, who knows that this is an event which will wake up the larger community and the authorities out there, and stringent corrective actions will be initiated. And then who knows, probably, you know, Bangalore might turn around to be one of the best and finest cities to manage such a situation tomorrow.
Okay.
But I think collectively we have to come together, find the solution, implement those solutions in the right spirit to, you know, get out of this situation permanently once and for all.
All right. Revati Ashok, what do you think are the solutions here?
I don't think we can have a quick fix solution here. These are all very systemic issues that need to get resolved. I think to say that this is only a small area which got affected, it is symptomatic of a larger malaise within the city. This time it is this particular area, and there are many places just waiting to breach. So first of all, people, the government must put all the maps of the Rajkalu ways which have been encroached on public domain, so that when people are buying property, when people are deciding, corporates are deciding to rent out property or buy property, individuals are deciding to buy houses, they know that this is already on encroached land. Now, I'm not the expert to say what should we do with the already encroached Rajkalu ways, and I happen to have many friends in the few kilometers area who have all been evacuated, and I know the horror stories that are going around. It's a very tragic situation. And it is not of them making, nobody wanted to be in a house or in a property which was encroached on a Rajkalwe. Nobody knew any better. So it is government's duty. In fact, recently in Chennai, the High Court has said that all the wetlands must be put on public domain. Similarly, government should, the High Court here in Bangalore also should insist that all the Rajkalwe details, primary, secondary and tertiary, should be put out on public domain.
All right. Let me take the final question then, ma'am. We are running out of time with K. Ganesh. K. Ganesh, you know, as an extreme example maybe, is it important to set boundaries? For instance, the Twin Towers in Noida recently were demolished because they encroached upon green space that was promised. Is a similar harsh approach perhaps necessary?
Yeah, I think for the past that has happened, we have to go case by case and see what is the corrective action. Is it a full demolition or is it a penalty? But more importantly, let's look at going forward. We have built the brand Bangalore over many decades. This is a big setback to that brand Bangalore. I don't think people will move out because all the other strength of brand Bangalore, the people, the technology, the education institution, the weather, all of that still holds very strong. So instead of doing postpartum, let's look at going forward. How are we going to take steps to do this, to correct the situation? And let's accept that we have a crisis here, we have a problem here. Saying once in 50 years thing is not going to solve it. And all of us need to come back, whether it's corporate honchos, entrepreneurs, technology people, the government, and civil society needs to come back to see that we have to correct it. If we don't accept that this is a bad situation, we are going to ignore it. We have ignored it. That's how it has come to this particular stage.
All right.
But I don't think the brand Bengaluru gets affected.
And all of you are on the same page that brand Bengaluru should remain intact. It should continue shining and attract the best and the most best brains really of the IT sector. Many thanks to all of you for joining us here on the show.